Hold on.
Okay, well, that's cool. You should just figure on that.
Okay.
All right, recording is in progress and whatever, so. Call this meeting to order. We need to approve the agenda as printed. So. Motion's been made and seconded.
Who seconded that?
I'll
I'm sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that is carried. Public comments on agenda items, seeing none of those, or hearing none. Communication shared by the solid waste board members. Nothing. We could eliminate some of this stuff. Oh, I know. Discussion, the 2022 tonnage and hauling report.
Wait.
Hold on,
I'm
we need
sorry.
to approve the minutes.
Huh?
We need to approve the minutes.
Well, that's why X amount. Approve the minutes of January 18, 2020.
Second. Oh.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that is carried.
Abstain.
Can I just make just one clarification? I can't remember. I said this at the last meeting, it's been a month now, but, Jerry had a question, for the clerk's office about, participating via Zoom. You do count toward the quorum, but you can't vote, is what I was told by the clerk's office and by Mary Ann Miller, so.
That's what I was told as well.
Correct, correct. So that is.
So I did not vote.
You did not vote. Right.
How'd you get per diem?
Okay. Okay, thanks for attending, Jerry.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Our pleasure, we're not there with you.
Well, I won't debate that.
Yeah, right. Discussion on a 2022 tonnage hauling report.
Yeah, so Kathy has put together some figures for you and tables. Talking about Winnebago County tonnage for waste and recycling. She also has some interesting information on the Bowl landfill front, as well as some information on the hauling costs. So I'll turn it over to.
Thank you. This is all preliminary information, so we'll go over it again around budget time, and hopefully the numbers will be audited at that point. The first spreadsheet that I'm sharing is the 2021 versus 2022 tonnage summary for our department contributed tons to the overall bowl system. On the solid waste side, we have transfer station tons, that's material on the waste material that came through our facility here. 2021, we had 92,653. 2022, we had 108,745. You jump over to the brackets, if you want to know what destination that material went to, 51% went to Outagamie County, 49% went to Brown County's landfill. The next line is direct hauls. That's our customers, with material coming out of Winnebago County that goes direct to a landfill rather than sending material through our facility here. 2021, we had 25,388 tons, and 2022 we had 29,693 tons. Not surprising, 99% of that went up to Outagamie County. They're more likely to drive a shorter distance to the landfill. And 1% just went up to Brown County. And then ADC is alternative daily cover and beneficial use for landfills. These are larger customers that we manage the contracts for primarily for the bowl system. So it's material counted that we contribute, but we do share that material with our partners. ADC BU for 2021 is 74,257 tons, and then 2022 is 65,479. 58% went up to Outagamie County, and 42% went up to Brown County. It's material like sludges, poly reject from the paper mills, auto shredder fluff, that kind of material. So overall, our total tons for 2021 contributed into the system was 192,298, and in 2022, we bumped it up to 203,917.
On the ABC stuff. Just seems like a big drop. Did we lose a customer along the line, or was they just weren't producing as much stuff?
Yeah, the paper mill sludge from, Nina Paper Appleton's mill dropped off.
Okay,
So that's primarily what that number is from. On the recycling side, transfer station tonnage, this is material, again, recycling that went through our transfer station. 10,883 tons, 2021, and 11,395 tons in 2022. Direct hauls went straight to the MRF with material from Winnebago County. 3,690 on 2021 and 2,946 in 2022. The significant change in that material is the I believe it was town of Nina, town of Vinland material that ended up coming to our facility rather than going up to the MRF. It just made more sense with the hauler at the time to bring it down here rather than to truck it up north. Total recycling tons through our transfer station in 2021 is 14,573, and in recycling to the system 14,573 in 2021 and 14,341 in 2022. Consistently, it's been between 14 and 15,000 tons a year. And then on the rug report, we'll go over this during the rug meeting as well, but this information is slightly different. It's based on our inbound tons, and the split is based on how much of that material came in from our signing municipalities versus how much material came in through our other customers. And this is recycling. So on the rug report, recycling municipalities in 2021 contributed 12,226 tons. 2022, their program contributed 11,553. And then our other customers contributions were 2,727 in 21, and in 2022, 2,830. Total tons on the rug report will show 14,953 recycling in 2021 and 14,383 of recycling in 2022. Questions?
rug report, is that stuff that goes right up to the recycling that is from our, that's on top of the recycling number, those?
No, it's just a
Okay.
different snapshot of the recycling tonnages.
Okay,
And it comes out when we do our signing the municipality rug meeting where we split out financials and we say the communities have earned X amount of dollars of revenues and the county has earned the other amount of revenues. So it's just another look at the tonnages. And the reason why we present it is because the numbers for the year look different. And the only reason why they look different for the year is because we are reporting the tonnage that crossed our scale.
Yeah.
And the numbers that crossed our scale, whereas the other set of numbers is what crossed the scale of Amy County from their semi-loads. There's always a difference depending on fair weights, depending on how much material is sitting on our tipping floor at the end of the year. So there's always.
to some extent, the 14,341 and the 14,383 are basically the same number. with
Exactly,
Little slight variation.
exactly,
Gotcha.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Kathy, I have a question on the recycling. I know the communities, many of the communities use recycle that stuff, which is out of Appleton for their electronics and such. Do we participate in that at all, in those numbers there, or is it because they're an Appleton company, it goes into Allegheny County?
That is between the municipality and recycle that stuff. So we do not participate, we do not report on those numbers. It's municipality that reports on those numbers. And that material doesn't come anywhere near our facility or Allegheny's facility.
Okay. So I didn't know if that was the cause for why it went down a little bit. or not.
No,
Okay.
no. not
Thank
at
you.
all. Sure. Okay. And then, the next tab is for Brown Allegheny Winnebago County Partnership Tons. Again, 2021 versus 22. preliminary numbers. So on the landfill side, this is which counties, or I should say the total tons for, the county contributions. So Brown County contributed 2,700. I'm sorry, 275,420 tons, to the system in 2021. And in 2022, they contributed 273,099. Outagamie County contributed 186,248 in 21 and 199,600 in 2022. And then Winnebago's contribution, 122,896 in 2021 and 128,884 in 2022. And then there's that both shared category, and that's like the ADCs that I had spoke about, that the alternative daily cover and the beneficial use materials that I had on other tab. Each county contributes a portion of that, so this is the lump sum of the 3 counties contributing into the shared tonnages. So in 2021, we had 201,384 shared tons, and in 2022, we had 239,977 overall into the landfill. Outagamie landfill in 2021 is 785,948 tons. 2022, we did split it between the 2 landfills, so we have 841,560 tons in landfill. And again, recycling side, this is material that is processed through our MRF up in Outagamie County, our recycling facility up there. And then each county's contribution of tonnage into that system. So 2021, Brown County contributed 22,088 tons. 2022, 18,881. Outagamie, 2021, 18,222 tons contributed. And in 2022, 16,409. And then Winnebago's is 12,533 in 2021 and 11,933 in 2022. The both shared tonnage, which is larger customers such as GFL, Waste Management, the 3 counties, because those companies cover all 3 counties and bring significant amount of material into the system. On the recycling side, we have decided that we're going to share that material amongst all 3 partners rather than, Winnebago getting 60% and Outagamie getting 40% and Brown County getting nothing. So that's the both shared. And both shared recycling 56,662 in 2021, and we bumped that up to 60,099 in 2022. So our total tons processed through the MRF in 2021 is 1,009,505, and in 2022, 1,007,322. That's typically where we want that sweet spot for processing. We processed up to 110,000 tons. In recent years, and then usually it's usually floats between 104, 105 to 110,000 tons, but we found that 105,000 tons is a sweet spot for budgeting purposes and for operating a facility to its maximum without over operating it or falling behind.
Where was the drop off? You identified, was there one large stream of recyclables that
They disappeared completely? There's nothing that specifically comes to mind, from what I can recall. So it's, and at times we're approached by other MRFs that are doing projects. Or like John's Disposal had a big fire earlier this year. So at times we're accepting material from outside of our Northeast Wisconsin just to help other MRFs. So it could have been, could have been a MRF project over in Stevens Point or Portage County, and we ended up getting 2,000 more tons in 2021 from that versus what we received in 2022. So there's minor variations due to agreements to try to help each other out, and hopefully, if we have an incident or we need to go with our material down the road, we're paying it forward, and potentially Milwaukee, MRF, or Portage County or somebody else would be able to help us out if we have a situation where we need to ship outside of our mouth.
so the trend is you normally upward.
Yeah, I mean, in the past.
Yeah.
Since I took over, I mean, I'm saying I did it, but since I took over, I've always seen a trend between the 100,000 and 110,000 mark.
Yeah, it kind of floats around a little bit. I want to say the last year's report that had the 2020 numbers, it was like 103 or 104.
Yeah,
So.
we're not concerned about it being pulled, particularly pulled out right now, because we're still within that sweet spot and kind of keeping an eye on the markets, but we're very well fixed where we are. We have a good residential base, and so we feel confident that, you know, a little bit of material seeping out through waste management, found and then work down there is not a threat to our system.
I just don't want it to appear to somebody that reads this report that we're losing, you know, that recycling isn't important anymore, and whatever we start when people are starting it.
No,
Okay,
it's
that's
just
fine.
minor variation happens every year.
Are we, at one time, I know we had too much contaminants, and when Finland is that process, has our recyclables gotten cleaner over the last few years?
Well, they kind of got, I should say in this past year, we were at about 9% overall for contamination, which is very good when you look at the commercial side, like the waste management side. What I've seen in industry reports, it's about 20% contamination. So we're still doing a very good job, and I think a lot of that is contributed to our residential programs and our municipalities that put a lot of effort into it. And I think also part of contributing is that our combined education focus that we have in Tri-County and our brochures, you know, the information you get out to the public, it helps keep them informed. We do see high contamination in the waste management loads, the GFL loads, the commercial material that's coming in. Unfortunately, right now it's part of the business to have to think through it. Now, as far as on the sales side of things, we are doing, because of the equipment upgrades that we did in 2021, or was it 20? I don't remember these days. We put in a new optical sorter and had additional equipment, newer equipment put in. That is helping keep up with contaminants that slip through pest sorters and getting that material out. And so we're having less issues with buyers at this point, rejecting material. So we're doing a good job getting contaminants out that are in the system. But it certainly does help to keep that, you know, under 10%. Too much information?
No, I do like the fact that they're at least GFI, is it GFI, GFL?
GFL.
GFL is at least painting their dumpsters, and they've got a little bit bigger stickers on there, so.
Good. So the effort is being made.
Yeah, I think that, I swear the apartments and, you know, even businesses that have both the regular and the recyclable, when the doofus that has a cabin on Lake Boygan has a whole pile of fish guts he don't know what to do with. When he comes by at midnight, he really don't care which one of your dumpsters he throws the fish guts in, so it's frustrating.
It is. It's frustrating on our part too, and the amount of time and energy that goes into education.
Yep.
And some people just don't care. So it's always a conversation of how do we get more information out? How do we get people to care? How do we get people to do the right thing? And I still think we're doing a fantastic job, just because when you look at it, like I said, the commercial side of things, and nationwide contamination is 20+%, and ours is still, you know, under 10.
And,
It's like,
and they're also sweet. They put all of their recyclables in a nice plastic bag and then dump the whole bag in. Yeah.
I do too.
I'm trying to explain that to people, they just don't get it.
Yeah, I
Is the
understand.
DNR still considering capping the residuals?
I haven't heard
That
of,
was that was really a big thing for a while when it came to the formula for the rugs or whatever. That was
yeah,
one of the hot ticket items, and people that, you know, if we have too many residuals, whatever, we're not gonna get that much credit and whatever, so.
yeah, I know they're taking another look at how that,
Those formulas.
administrative code is
Yeah.
written, and they're going through that process. So I don't have any specific details on it. I don't think they've gotten to the lease information for exactly what they're proposing yet. I haven't seen it.
It'll get quieter now that Lisa retired.
Well, I will certainly keep an eye on it for our municipalities and I'm sure I'll hear it through our partners as well. So. All right, going on to hauling costs, moving on to hauling. 2022 hauling costs at the top and then 2021 hauling costs at the bottom. Just to point it out, significant changes from 21 to 22, we switched our hauling contractor. At the start of 2021, we had Trail Camp yet hauling, recycling and waste. And by the end of the year, we had hired Best to come in and finish out the year for 21 and then move into 2022 with the new contract or agreement, I should say. The other significant change you'll see in the dollar signs, we did see quite a price increase on diesel fuel. And we have part of our contract is fuel surcharge that we allow our contracted hauler to put into place when the fuel gets to a certain pay. And so we did see higher fuel pricing and we also did see higher fuel surcharges because of that. So you'll see that we weren't quite on target for budget for hauling in 2022, but that's primarily from the cost of fuel, which is unpredictable. So moving on, hauling costs, number of loads, waste loads, MSW to Outagamie landfill. I have waste loads to Brown County landfill and I have recycling loads to the MRF. Number of loads to Outagamie landfill in 2022 is 1,928. Loads to Brown County was 1,820. And loads to the MRF for recycling was 562. The tonnage we moved in those loads, 55,864 tons to Outagamie, 52,881 tons to Brown, and 11,395 tons to the MRF in Outagamie. And then average tons per load, because this is a target that we're always trying to meet, maximizing the haul costs that we're being charged, trying to maximize the tonnage in the loads. Keep in mind, though, there are 6 to 8 weeks in the spring where we have to haul light loads because of the road weight restrictions are on. So we have to haul under 80,000 pounds, whereas during the rest of the year, we can haul to 120, I think they're licensed at.
Yeah, 17.
Okay. Yeah. So, that average does include that time frame, 6 to 8 weeks typically is where we had to haul light loads. Average tons per load to Outagamie, 28.98, Brown County, 29.06, and then recycling is 20.28. Recycling is just a lighter material to begin with. And Brown County is a little bit higher just because at the beginning, on the onset of opening that facility, we had to haul good trash, residential trash for the fluff layer that tends to be heavier than the construction trash that we would send to the facility.
Yeah, it's interesting, we're talking about good trash and bad.
Yeah, interesting. I visited my friends in the villages. And of course, now they incinerate everything. They have they don't have any carts because they don't want that ugly cart out in their yard and whatever. So the bag goes out and there's a restriction on how many hours it can sit out there. And the crew comes through like at 5 a.m. and by sunup, it's pristine again and whatever. And they incinerate everything. And it's like so how did that happen? It's like they just incinerate things and whatever. And but it produces energy. I had a few discussions with some of the people about it. They don't care. They just want it to they don't care where it goes. So that's wonderful, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for hauling costs, the actual cost for hauling Outagamie landfill is $448,948 and 50 cents in 2022. Hauling to Brown County, which is slightly, you can see it's a slightly more expensive haul because it's another hour or turnaround time. So there's more time that the truck, further distance, more time that the truck is on the road. So we pay a higher rate for hauling to Brown County. Brown County actual costs are $554, $595.47. And then, hauling costs to the MERV, $129,064.81 for the year. These are part of a shared cost in 2022. So, it's, the cost itself is shared between the boat partners. We pay a portion of it. And you can see the hauling cost actual versus ton, $8.04 a ton, to Outagamie landfill, $10.49 a ton, the Brown County landfill, $11.33 per ton to haul to the MERV. Hauling cost per load, I have that in there as well. It was the average cost per load. $232.86 to Brown County landfill, $304.72 to, I'm sorry. First one is Outagamie landfill, $304.72 to the Brown landfill, and $229.65 to the recycling facility. And you can see the budget. Again, we were over budget for the hauling to Outagamie landfill. Just because we sent more loads out the door and the costs were higher than, fuel costs were higher than we anticipated they would be. And for comparison, you can see at the bottom there, 2021 hauling costs. Similar, I want to say, similar to what we ended up paying in 2022. A little more material went through the system in 2022 versus 2021. And I could go over the numbers, but it would probably bore you to death. So unless anybody wants me to read them off the screen, I will move on. Okay. And the Brown Outagamie Winnebago landfill operations preliminary tonnages. So this spreadsheet is the amount of tons going into each landfill and which origin. So the material coming out of Brown County, first line up there, 40,066 tons went into the Outagamie landfill. 310,370 tons went into the Brown County landfill. And total out of Brown County being landfill is 350,436 tons. For Outagamie source tonnages, 285,877 went into the Outagamie landfill, 1,328 went into the Brown landfill, and total for Outagamie County is 287,205. And for our tonnage, 123,341 went into the Outagamie landfill, 80,578 went into the Brown landfill, and 203,911 for the entire county total. And then total for the year, Outagamie County received 449,284 tons. Brown County received 392,276, and total for the system 841,560.
So the plan for running two landfills, it really is necessary. We're well over 800,000 tons. It was becoming unsustainable to run one landfill at a time. So it was a good move on our part. But the tracking is the challenge now. I mean, you're sending all our materials to one landfill. Now we're splitting it between two landfills and we're sharing different costs. I think 2022, so it was a challenge getting everything all set up, plug and play, so we can keep tabs on everything. And I think we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and as a regional group, and I think there's going to be a little extra work to get our 2022 figures set together, broke out for our audit purposes. So,
like, explain again, maybe we did this, how, okay, stuff comes here, or it's direct hauled, but anything direct hauled is always to Outagamie, right? No one's direct hauling to Brown.
A few customers do, of our customers do.
Who does that?
We have, I think, Anchor Castings, who's held by City Disposal.
Okay,
It's a material that Brown County can use specifically in their landfill. They need it to help stabilize certain parts of their
Okay,
landfill, so they
okay.
requested that.
so that implies that there's no municipality direct hauling.
No, it's all.
Okay, so then how do we, the truck leaves here, how is it determined that they're either gonna go to Winnebago or out of Gaming overall?
We make that determination.
Based upon other tonnages that from other counties, or how is that?
It's-
What's the formula?
It's more of a filling plan at this point. It's based on a couple different things. But in 2022, we wanted to do about 50-50. Brown County
Okay.
needed good trash right off the bat, so we moved the good trash up to Brown County. As much as they needed when they needed it.
Okay.
And then Allegheny would receive the rest. And then it was more of a, can we continue to operate, because there's a longer turnaround time, do we have enough trucks to make that turnaround to get more material up to Brown County? So on a daily operational basis, someone here is making a decision. X amount of trucks are going out of Allegheny today, X amount of trucks are going to Brown today, if the weather changes, road changes, one shuts down, now we need to change our operations to get it together. Going forward, now this year is going to be a little bit more of a challenge because we need to get at least 75-90% of our tonnage to Brown County. Because Allegheny is getting close to the top, it's getting tight up there, they can't get as much turnaround space for the semis. And the sooner, if we fill out Allegheny County before they're ready to
Phase 2 or whatever?
do the next one,
Yeah.
then they have nowhere to go other than Brown County
Okay.
with their material. So we kind of have to like back off of Allegheny and steer more up the Brown.
So it's kind of a fluid thing, weekly, monthly, annually.
Sometimes
Kathy coordinates.
Okay, and you're coordinating with the other counties then?
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, there's a true.
Yeah.
Almost like constant contact about, hey, today we need this, tomorrow might be different, next week might be different, next month might be different.
Yeah, it could, I mean, the daily operational changes typically it's the operations, I'm sorry, our supervisor that I have for the transfer station for our equipment operators. He's more in contact with the supervisors of the landfills of it, in Brown County on daily needs.
Okay,
And then weekly and monthly, I'll have conversations with our partners at the level that I'm at to make sure that we're getting our needs met and they're all happy with what's going on with what we're.
so far it's working, okay,
It's working very well.
okay,
And they've allowed me that if, for whatever reason, we get hit really hard, we have material coming out the door, and if I need to get a lot of material turned around fast, they, Allegheny knows. I'm going to be relying on them to allow me to ship 10 loads or 12 loads in a one day rather than just 1 or 2 loads.
so last question then, once Allegheny's next phase is ready, are we predominantly going to Allegheny, or are we still gonna be splitting?
I think we'll split to some degree. Allegheny will need the good trash then. They won't be able to take the trash that would poke through the liner in the landfill, so we're going to have to do a split like that again for a couple of months. And then once we get to that point, the plan will be to go primarily to Allegheny
Okay.
until Brown County opens their next cell.
Sure.
And then we flip up again, so the next 10 years is going to
Okay.
be very fluid in how we're shipping material.
Alright.
You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of thought and coordination going into decisions of where we're pointing waste on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. The landfills, I think they're doing it twice a year where they're doing aerial surveys and checking their waste densities and remaining airspace, so we know. We have an idea how much longer each site's gonna last based on some set estimated tonnages and waste densities, so we meet on a regular basis and talk about that. So they'll be doing that again in June and July.
How is everything working out with our new hauler, and is it way better
Fantastic.
than if we'd had the old hauler?
Yes, it is fantastic. It is the difference between night and day.
Okay,
They're efficient, their drivers are professional, they don't bulk. If we say we need 5 trucks, we need 6 trucks today, they make it happen. It's fantastic working with them.
so
Yeah, and with the new contract, it allowed them to purchase new equipment, so instead of dealing with end of life
Yep.
equipment,
And they're maintaining them.
and they're maintaining it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that we dealt with the previous hauler was there was little to no maintenance and breakdowns and.
Yep.
It's very rare for us to experience that with our current hauler.
Great. Who made that motion to switch to that one?
Cassie, look back at the minutes, please.
I think that ends the tonnage and volume report.
Okay. Award of a waste recycling compactor. Fines cleaning. Okay.
Another
What
taxi
do you want?
presentation.
Go with the Word document. No. Eventually I'll have you open up the RFP document too. Okay, so, with us running compactors, it's a very specialized piece of equipment. It's a stationary waste compactor, pushes that material into the back of the semi truck, right? There's what is called fines. It's material that slips underneath the blade, it falls into a catch area underneath. It's a confined space and takes specialized cleaning and maintenance of that. In the past, we were able to get competitive quotes, but the rates have increased significantly over the last couple of years to have that cleaning service done. So to follow our purchasing guidelines, I did have to put this out on the street this year for a request for proposals. RFP, solid waste 01-23 is for trash and recycling compactor farm cleaning. It's a monthly service, removal of fines and debris that build up in the waste and recycling compactors. It involves lockout, tagout procedures, a confined space procedure, multi-person crew, typically 3 people, and an industrial vacuum truck to avoid injuries from the abrasive material that does build up in this confined space. The RFP Solid Waste 01-23 was published on Demand Star on January 19th. It was due February 9th. We also held a site visit on February 1st. Jack's Maintenance came down here and visited our site and took a look at what the service entailed. After that site visit, we did add an addendum published it on Demand Star. That included the removal of debris in the footprints, which is an open space underneath the compactor unit, and the walking spaces around the compactor. We felt it would be a more thorough cleaning job if we included that into the package. Our RFP received 1 response, and it was from Covanta Environmental Solutions. I believe they're out of Winnebago. They are the service we were using in the past, so it was no surprise. I was surprised to see that Jack's Maintenance dropped out, and they dropped out because they found that it was just above and beyond their expertise, and they didn't have quite the right setup to be able to perform the service. All right, you could please open up the PDF.
Which one?
The proposal. And scroll to page. Scroll to page 6, please. Normally, we would have a summary, but because it was only one, I'm just going to show the results of the one. Keep scrolling, one more page. I asked the vendor to fill up qualifications in case somebody else other than Covanta had submitted a proposal. I asked them to include information on what equipment that they would plan to use for that. And that was just to make sure that we received, or they would use equipment that we would expect them or knew would be needed to handle that environment and that cleaning situation. We also confirmed the number of personnel that they would assign to that job, just to make sure that they were in the right mindset of planning for enough people to handle that job. We asked them to describe how they would deliver the service. Covanta described it as we currently see it. So We were happy with that response. And then in the price proposal, the rates, I ended up having to lump some things together that Covanta in the past had broken out, and that was to try to steer our potential other proposers to all meet the same categories and compare apples to apples rather than have 8 different, services from one and then 3 different services from another. So as you can see, for equipment, vehicles and operators and technicians, it's a $390 per hour. The estimated 4.25 hours per month, and the estimated cost of that $1,657.50. The CSC is confined space entry permitting, training, lockout takeout package. Typically it had been an additional expense, so we wanted to make sure that it was recognized that it is part of this package. The charge for that is $330 an hour, estimated 2.75 hours, charge of $332.75 estimated. Fuel surcharge, more often than not, we're seeing fuel surcharges, so we wanted to make sure that any vendor could recover that cost if fuel prices went up again. Their fuel surcharge 22.5% per unit, 1 unit, charge is $221.06. And then environmental fees, not uncommon for vendors to have additional environmental fees on. So we want to make sure we offered that to potential proposers to be able to recover their costs. $314.44 estimated per month. The estimated monthly cost for the entire service package, $2,525.75. Estimated cost for the year, $30,308.94. Yes.
On your second line there, 330 times 275,
It's estimated.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
It doesn't add it up. Yeah, you're correct. It doesn't add up, but it's 700. Yeah, it's an estimation.
But it doesn't do.
but you're estimating 2 and 3/4 hours, that's gonna be $800.
Yeah, it looks like an error in there.
Yeah, I'll confirm it.
Okay,
So the estimated service package for the year is $30,308.94. In 2022, our costs were $25,442, so we're talking about a $5,000 increase for the service for the year. We have worked with Covanta from 2018 through 2022 for the service. We're confident that they can provide it at the level we expect, and that they will stand behind their rates. And this is now a shared bow transportation operations cost. So we are sharing the cost of the service with Brown and Allegheny counties, both on the recycling side and on the waste side.
Do Brown and Allegheny have compactors too, or they don't need them because they're dumping it in the pit?
Allegheny does not, but Brown does. They run a transfer station on the north side of town up there, and their transfer station service, it's run differently than ours. They actually pay a company to come in and run their transfer station, and so part of that package includes servicing the compactors and cleaning out catch basins in the pits. So we're paying for it, it's just a different format.
Yep. But it's all being shared amongst all three.
Yes. What we're recommending today is to award the contract or the purchase of service agreement to Covanta for the first year, which would include February through December 31st, 2023. And with this proposal, we do have the option to renew annually through 2027 with successful rate negotiations with Covanta. So we shouldn't have to bring this back to the board until late 2027 for award beyond that. Any other questions?
Well, I mean, back to Howard's point, just to get this so that the board is acting upon something that's factual. There is a pretty significant difference between 332.75 and 110. When it's
Yes.
basically at almost $1,000 a month. I would if we have a motion or something, it obviously doesn't matter. Theoretically, we're gonna go with them either way, whatever that number is, but I want there to be some reflection of what the actual cost is. If they did the math wrong, or it's supposed, whatever it is, but it's not an insignificant error. If they gave you that, it's triple what it says, which would, could add 10 grand to the cost.
Yeah, it would be about 3,100 a month. If that
Yeah.
price is adjusted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I'll confirm it very much.
I think they're a lot.
When you confirm it, remind them that it was 25 last year and we can handle 30. I don't know that we can swallow 40 quite as easy. And one other thing, did anybody talk to the people that handle, you say it's Brown County that is being run by the transfer station, being run by a
It-
company?
It's being run by GFL.
Okay. GFL have any interest in cleaning these out?
They subcontract through a different company,
Okay. And that,
and that company did not bid on it.
okay,
It's Green Bay, so I guess I'm not surprised that they did not bid on it.
Okay.
For the travel to Oshkosh. but
should be neat if there was at least 2 people.
Absolutely, that's why I was put out on the street,
Yeah,
hoping that 2
yeah.
people would respond.
So if for the board to be comfortable. Should I entertain a motion to go along with this recommendation? Pending that clarification
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I think so. I'll make a motion to approve
30,000.
the contract at that amount, and if it is contingent upon the fact that that is the actual number,
Okay,
if it is not, and we're talking about another 8 to 10 grand, then I would prefer to come back to the board.
I would second that.
okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that is carried. Thank you. Kathy's on the vote now.
Yeah. Well, after, I guess, moving on to item 8.
Which one you want?
Anybody wants to take a donut break? Go ahead. Case if your sugar levels in money.
Yeah, so, after the last meeting, I received an email from the parks manager. Tom McGinnis, that summarized the 2022 expenses for maintenance work at the Ken Rowell Conservation Park. They typically, send these to us in January or February. And it's something that's been kind of hanging out there for a period of time. Again, when we built Ken Rowell Conservation Park back in 2017, we worked with the Parks Department to come up with an MOU of how we'd handle the initial investment, who would pay for what, and the maintenance expenses were always a little bit, I guess, vague. Who was gonna pay for the maintenance expenses? For the first couple of years, they've been submitting these maintenance costs. It's basically just mowing the park, the trail area, mowing the parking lot area, kind of general upkeep. We have a couple of walkouts to the gravel trail that they made some repairs to, but it's roughly about $3,000 to $3,500 a year is what they're looking for. The MOU always, the discussion was always we as a solid waste board will help offset the maintenance expenses at the beginning, but ultimately we'd like to see the Parks Department take over the 100% of the maintenance costs in the future. So the last time this was really talked about, unfortunately, was almost 2 years ago. Where a proposal was made by our board to kind of transition the expenses from solid waste to parks. And what was proposed was for the first 3 years, solid waste would pay 100% of the maintenance costs. For the next 3 years, it would be split 50-50 with parks. And after 2025 and beyond, it would be all parks. That was met with some opposition by the Parks Committee on a February meeting in 2021. They didn't accept, I guess, what we were proposing. And there was a suggestion made, it should just be split 50-50 in perpetuity. That was brought back to our board, but there was no action taken. Rob Way, the longtime Parks Director, subsequently retired 2 years ago. The Parks was running with an interim person for a period of time before they hired the current Parks Director, Adam Breest. And there was a transition with the committee structure and chairman of the Parks Committee. So last year, Adam and I talked a couple different times about maybe trying to get our chairman together and come up with a plan for how we're gonna handle these maintenance expenses. It just never materialized last year. Here we are, 2023, it still needs to be addressed. After I got the 2022 expenses from the parks manager, I reached out to Adam, he had some questions. So I sent him a bunch of information last week and just said, hey, I'm just gonna brief it to our new board. I know it's something that needs further discussion. He was suggesting perhaps getting the county executive office involved on kind of working on some sort of mutual arrangement. Pat and I have always, it's like 3,000, we're squabbling over $3,000. It's not, I mean, maybe we just incorporate that in our budget for the Snell Road site. But I just wanted to let you know, I don't need any action at this point in time. But I wanted to let you know that this has come to the forefront again, and we'll have to work on a solution for the long-term maintenance expenses for Pembroke Conservation Park.
Well, as both a member of the county board and of the solid waste board, the question to me is, which pocket do I want to take it out of? This pocket or this pocket? And I think that the suggestion that solid waste is on a sufficiently stable financial situation, and we do get the kudos for Ken Roble and for the location of the park. They're doing all the work. To me, that's the most important part, that we have a secure provider. We don't have to go hunt for somebody to cut the grass. And of course, paying for it, as you say, under $3,000 is not a big hardship. So that's my 2 cents.
I think, John, you maybe
Maintenance costs, sorry.
you might want to tell the board about over the past 3 years or whatever, the charge that was submitted was never.
Yeah,
It was never.
we haven't, there was some paperwork prepared where we were gonna pay for the first 2 years through a journal. But for whatever reason, it never got processed by finance, so nothing is ever transacted. But I put this little summary together because one thing I had kind of forgotten about is, we, solid waste, employees, kind of coordinated some maintenance work out there at the end of, in the fall of 2021. Again, taking care of the tree plantings, because we were seeing these trees that were kind of growing out of their bare root tube stock, where they're being stunted and dying. We also had a number of trees where they had some supports, and they were starting, the wires were starting to cut into the bark of the tree. They needed to be taken off. We also had some deer damage, big surprise over there. So we put up some fencing around some of the problem conifer trees, so. Anyways, so Kathy estimated based on the time spent in our employees, we spent about $2,500 maintenance in 2021. So I will certainly bring that into the equation, but you know, honestly, that, you know, they're mowing, they're mowing over there, looks like about 10. They mowed 11 times last year. They did some prairie cutting with a bigger mower. You know, the rates, you know, $2,850 for 2022. It's not a huge expense. But I guess we just need to get a better feel for how the new committee structure at Parks feels. What the executive office feels like would be a fair solution to this. Obviously, like Paul was saying, you know, the maintenance and upkeep of the park is paramount importance. You don't want to spend the money developing something and then let the maintenance run awry. So I think it's go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we've kind of gone round and round about this. Spent way more time talking about it than it's probably worth. My personal sense is I actually kind of like the partnership. Everybody has a little skin in the game, both work-wise and financially. It does benefit both solid waste, but it also benefits parks. It gives it I think, for my purpose, this 50-50 split, actually where it's landed now, almost seems like the right thing, because it really does speak to the sort of unique nature of this. We owned it, we did it, they, you know, turned it into a park, but they get the benefit, but we, you know, and then we send some guys over once in a while if they don't get at it, because basically what you're telling me is in 2021, we have to do some stuff because they neglected to do it. Is that right?
Neglected being a harsh word, but I was just.
What would be the more unharsh word?
I don't know. Cassie was working on coordinating all these bench installations with these Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So I was over there and I'm just noticing all these tree plantings that we spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that needed some attention. So it wasn't going to happen with the Parks Department. So we had some people that were willing to volunteer and take care of it.
Fine. So that's my 2 cents is I actually, if you're gonna negotiate with them, the 50-50 split seems like something that everybody can sort of go, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because it's kind of a unique situation, so.
Mike, I think what happened really was a matter of ownership. And there was a disconnect between the Parks Committee chairman and how he viewed that park. He didn't think we were paying enough other than $1 million it cost us to build that park. And then we wanted to give it to him and it was like, no, I don't want to accept that. That's not, and a lot of that, the dynamics of that have changed. So I'm assuming when we sit down at some point in time and have a meeting, just in the back of our mind saying, well, if you know, if this is what you were gonna charge us, you probably should have charged us because you never collected it. So was it that important? If it wasn't that important, that's fine. Let's start from square one. Let's do a 50-50. Who cares? I think if you have ownership and pride in that, in what happened out there, makes sense. The park, maybe the park is maybe they don't have enough staff, you know how that goes, you don't have enough staff, so you don't. It's not a high priority and whatever, so.
Yeah, we've also been struggling with summer seasonal employees, which they use to do the mowing at the park. And actually having people willing to work, so.
Likewise, I wouldn't be opposed to the 50-50, but I think we have to make it clear that sometimes. We're gonna go and fix some of the stuff that isn't getting fixed, so that. We need to document the amount of time we spend also. You spend $3,000 on the park, we spend $1,000.
Yeah, it should go into the mix.
Yeah, we don't.
I guess,
So-
yeah, and I guess just on that note. You know, right now, we're just talking about basic maintenance, so mowing. Maybe some weed control on the path, fixing erosion damage, you know, minor things. But, you know, there's also been other things floated around about. You know, doing something more with the pond, and the first thing being weed control. In the pond itself to improve the fishing habitat. Now, there's lots of fish in there. But the weeds get out of control pretty quick and it's tough. So. Some of those bigger one-time expenses, you know, that's gonna be something we'll have to. Further address. I mean, I think. Parks is willing to work. To some extent with this general maintenance, but, you know, if we're gonna do fish stocking or if we're gonna do weed control or. You know, further development over there, you know, those things will have to be discussed more in detail to clearly identify who's responsible for paying for those sort of things. So in this MOU that was prepared back in 2017, you know, the conditions here in section 3, that solid waste board will create and fund the park development plan. We'll consult with Park and Rec on elements of the park development plan, which we did. We'll manage and fund the construction of the park, which we did. And then D is the one that Park and Rec will assume management of the park upon completion of the construction, and that the solid waste board and Park and Rec committee will evaluate park maintenance needs after 1 year and determine appropriate cost sharing mechanism. And that's the language that was put in there that we need to kind of work through. We will continue to own the property, and any improvements made to the park will be performed in accordance with the plans previously approved by the solid waste board. So I'm not sure, based on further discussions, if you need to prepare some sort of maintenance agreements with parks, just so it's clear who's paying what, and so we don't have to squabble about this annually. But, they have been plowing it in the winter months. They plow the parking area, and there's people that are still using it, just walking the snow-covered trails in the winter months. And
Are there like trails where somebody can like snowshoe and things? I mean, is it interesting enough out there to,
it's kind of cool out there.
yeah, I mean, is it?
I mean, just the regular, the walking trail. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, so. You see people out there with dogs all the time, even though there's a sign that says no dog allowed, but. Yeah. But, yeah, so. Anyways, I will continue to have discussions with, the Parks Director and then bring something back to the board once we have a chance to. Go through things a little bit more in detail.
Comment or question?
Yeah, so are you saying that you would like to have it would help, obviously, if the board had a, agreement?
I don't know what,
Just
it was kind of,
expedited or?
yeah, I guess it was kind of talked about, 2 years ago when, the issue of the cost sharing, was last really discussed. Whether or not we needed to prepare some sort of updated maintenance agreement, laying out the terms and who was gonna pay for what, but, that'll be something that I'll talk about with the
Okay.
Parks Director.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll report back once we had a chance to have a meeting or two.
Yeah, the point of it was. We provide the materials for the park and ultimately turn it over to the Parks Department because they have management skills that we don't have. And then so we thought that would be a smooth transition. It, obviously not. It's a,
Yeah, I tried to hand those keys over to Rob Way when,
yeah,
at the dedication event, but
yeah, it's
but
like,
then he went and retired, so.
yeah, so I mean, it's a great asset, I think, to Winnebago County, to that Parks Department or whatever, they can, you know, they had some grandiose plans of extending the trail and doing all that stuff, you know, well, then it becomes money. Now that's, you know, and we thought, we've already stuck considerable amount of cash into the project and whatever, and fine, it's a great project and whatever, it's got a lot of state recognition and everything like that, so. But it's like, we wanted to get out of that management of that stuff and whatever, so. But it. This typical politics, things never work out.
So, for, I like the idea of sharing the cost, I just was curious about where you're at with that, Chairman.
Oh, I don't have, I wanna get it over with. I'm tired of listening, for $3,000, I told John, I said, who cares? Let's just pay for it and we have control. If we do a 50-50, now we're gonna, in perpetuity, we're gonna be arguing about how much is how much. And whatever, so if the board would be making every one of those decisions, if we took care of it. It would be all right here, and so you wouldn't have to hop over to the parks and they're gonna grumble, they're gonna get a parks director over there that complains about $500. My personal opinion, just pay for it, who cares, but. That's not how it started out.
Thank you.
If that's the case, you could actually look for a private party to maintain the park and mow the park and just pay a lawn service that would do it, and you'd have complete control.
Well, I think it behooves us to talk to the parks department, now that they have new management over there and whatever, and just see. If there's any dialogue that they're interested in. They promote it also, you know,
Yeah.
so that's part of that whole process, whatever.
And Adam's got so many other bigger things going on in parks that this is not super high priority on his part either, but we'll try to make. The discussion happens, we can make a decision and move on.
Every 6 months, my disc goes around with the full and whatever, and I'll email John or text him or say, how are we doing on that, weed control over that pond? And whatever, and I get the old, oh yeah, that's right.
Speaking of all
It's
the
not a high
extra things
priority.
the park has going on, where exactly do you want the people on this committee to park when the PGI convention is going on, so we can watch the fireworks and not have to pay for parking? Are there any assigned spots, or can we get to the top of the hill?
Get you up to the top and have you park up there.
Leave one of them rangers that we bought so we can get up to the top of the hill.
Bring a lawn chair and.
Jerry, I believe, has a comment. Yes, Jerry.
Pat, I've got a question. If we would not have created the park in that area, would the solid waste board had any expense or requirements for maintenance of that area?
My assumption is yes, we, you know.
I would think so.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, right,
Well,
it's just a matter of now we built that fishing pier. And enhance that whole area and whatever, so now I have a nephew. That's a big bass fisher, he likes to do that, so he went out there. He said, thank you, but no thanks. He said, because that is so weak, Joe. He said, you can't fish it, and whatever, so it's like, well, I don't know if there's anybody on this board that's can solve that problem or whatever, but there's people out there that's what they do and whatever, so.
Yeah, Parks gave me 2 contacts for companies that have done weed control in their ponds at the community park. And I reached out to both of them. neither one responded in a very timely manner, and I only got one response about 4 months after I had reached out to them, so. So I hope to pick that up again too, and see if we can get, once the site conditions are such that they can come out and take a look at things and give us an estimate. of what it would take.
Way up on the high priority this month, right up there. Yeah, so,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yes.
and I don't want to.
Okay, then go.
Dead horse, but I will. Hold on for a second, but, because I think it's important that we give the new members the sort of history here. I mean, this was a decision this board made 6, 7 years ago, whatever, we could have gone 2 ways. We could have just, as we said, yep, leave it alone, we'll maintain whatever, but it was gonna be this basically just rustic nothing, right?
Right.
But then the decision made to invest $8 million to make it into a park, right? Well, that, if from the very beginning, from my perspective, if we were gonna do that, then this is a park. You don't invest $1 million and then just go, well, whatever. The whole point here was that it was supposed to be a sort of a long-term, if not handoff, at least some sort of ownership from the county's perspective as a park, or there was no reason to spend $1 million, right? That's my perspective. The reason I kind of like the 50-50 is it gives them ownership. If they don't have anything other than, yeah, we sent some guys out 5 years, 3 years, might be, we don't have the time anymore, it doesn't, blah, blah, blah. I want them to have some ownership in this. That's the point. That's why, I frankly would have fought to not spend $1 million because it was just a waste of money. If this doesn't become something that the county and the community can use as a park and that it continues to build toward that, then we wasted $1 million because there was no point to spending, right? That's the perspective that I'm coming from. So I want them to take ownership in this. If it means, that means them paying a little bit to maintain it. It gets them out there. It gets them thinking about, okay, maybe now we can move it to another phase or something. That's, I'm just, from my perspective, that history is important. Because that's a sunk cost of $1 million that we made a decision to spend, and I don't.
Right, once we made that decision, irregardless of the outcome of this whole discussion or whatever, there still is a park out there that because we were part of it and we initiated it, we should be proud of it and we should maintain it. How it's funded at this point in time is, it's minuscule compared to what we invested in that program and whatever. I hear you, Mike, you know.
My point is, we're not qualified to run a park.
Oh, yeah, right,
Right,
exactly.
and that's not what we do. So
Our plan, you know, our vision was so clear.
Yeah,
What we wanted to do and whatever, and all of a sudden it was just tossed to the side, which was unfortunate. It could have went smoothly. Well, now we're back to square one almost. So I agree with you. There is a way forward to this, and we'll see after. I told John, you might as well, I don't know if you want to get the county executive involved, because what, I mean, is that not a little? Huh?
I think he's got better things to be involved in.
Exactly, so $3,000 maintenance?
Yeah.
Come on, get serious.
But-
But if he likes to take, if that's what's great for the executive and whatever, I would have thought that it could have been easily handled at the department head level and whatever, and it's like, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Is that chairman still over there? That Parks chairman, he's still there?
Who is it?
Mike Norton.
No, it's not.
No, he has.
Not on that.
Oh,
committee.
Rachel Dowling.
Oh, that's who got it.
Okay,
But I don't know
Mike
if
Norton
she's-
was a pain in my ass from way back then.
So,
It's a lot quieter now.
Hey,
so if I may, Rachel Dowling was voted in Mike's place, but I don't know who the chairman is.
Right, yeah.
So
Who
actually,
was that guy that used to be?
Well,
Jerry Finch.
No, Gary, I could always get along with.
Supervisor Bender,
Yeah. He's still there?
yes, he's still on the committee.
Not a
But
good-
just
not a
the-
good person.
Just to tag on Mike's comments. it's not like solid waste just went off on their own and built it. I mean, there was Parks Department involved throughout the whole process.
Yeah, remember we had Eileen McCoy.
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
Former Parks Director for Nina.
Nina, we hired
Helped
her.
run exactly.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so,
It was such a great project.
it was like, we had a groundbreaking event, we had a dedication event, a news media was there.
I'd like to think a little more communication and this whole thing could be.
Yeah.
Handled.
Yeah, hopefully.
I would have thought maybe the village of Winnie County or something would like to.
We bailed the county out on one part that they didn't make.
You were so lucky to get that.
Oh, yeah.
I would have taken that and built a resort there. Anyway, getting off this subject.
Okay.
That'll be my last action, and then I'll retire. Figure this out. It's a
Okay.
big deal.
Okay,
So now the director is reported.
yeah. So. Kathy and the crew are coordinating waste and recycling hauling. It's continuing well, a little slower pace of late with the new year, typically January, February, a little slower months tonnage wise, but things are going well. And as Kathy had mentioned, we gotta start thinking about the weight limits to go on the roads. Because it takes our, 30+ ton loads and cuts it down to about less than 20. So we end up doing a lot more turns to get the waste out of the transfer stations, so. But I think with Best as our hauler and I think we're in a much better place. They did it last year, so they now know what it involves, and I think we're in a good position for when that starts.
Do we have all the aluminum trailers now? That's what.
Yeah, 53-foot aluminum ones, so.
Yeah.
So how many roads do you go on that have weight limits on it?
This one,
This one,
The Sunnyview.
from here to 41.
Oh,
here to
okay.
41. 41's grandfathered in, it's interstate, so we can operate over 80 on that, but getting to 41.
Oh,
And
it's
then,
just this section.
yeah, and then up and out of Gammy, if we're going out of Gammy, the trucks typically exit at 00 Northland Avenue, and that's got restrictions on it, as well as Holland Road into the landfill. So it's not the main part of the trip, it's the getting out of the transfer station and getting off the highway into the landfill. And same kind of goes for Brown County too, so. And on the positive side of things, WPS revenues for January. Okay, we got the new power purchase agreement, right? Well, Cassie gets the checks and she says, wow, they look a lot bigger than what I was anticipating. So for January, we're at $72,273. And when I looked at the bills, the rate that WPS is paying us as of 1/1/2023 with our new power purchase agreement is higher than what we had talked about during late last year negotiation. We were looking at all our analytics were done with about a 5 cent a kilowatt hour blended rate on and off peak. And what the January billing shows is we have a blended rate of about 7.2 cents a kilowatt. So, and with the new power purchase agreement, that sets the floor. So if it goes below that, we can easily get out of it and do something different. So, I guess I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised to share that information with our staff, with our outside legal. So we'll keep monitoring things. I mean, hopefully with the clean energy initiatives that are out there on a national level, as things trickle down to Wisconsin, maybe we'll see that number staying somewhat stable or maybe even going up a little bit more. But it puts us in a nice position as we go for the next piece of the puzzle, which is the green credits, the environmental attribute portion of it.
So what was that increase dollar wise? You know, you said, you talked about pennies and whatever, and a check of 72,000, if you, on a 12-month basis, what is it, how many thousand?
I don't know, it's probably 20,000 more.
Substantial.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like we generated, 7.2 blended, 72,000. Yeah, it'd probably be about 50,000 is what we're anticipating, so. Yeah, and the other thing too is we're trying to, now that we've got the 3 engines ready to roll, we're trying to kind of play around with operations a little bit. The landfill really likes to run smoothly with one small engine and one bigger engine. So that's about 500 CFM of gas, maintains a nice percent methane of 52%, which is great. Oxygen less than 0.5%. It can run on that very smoothly. Even in the winter months. Now we haven't had a super cold winter, but what they tried in recent weeks is they tried running all 3. When you run all 3, it pulls about 850 to 900 CFM out of that hill. And that hill is not capable of producing that for any period of time. So we tried that for a day and a half, and it was already stressing the hill. So what he's trying this week is we're running the 2 bigger ones, which is about 700 feet of gas. I guess so far with the warmer temps, it's been sustainable, but we're having some issues with our gas chromatograph right now that we're working on getting fixed. So I don't know, the readings on SCADA aren't real because the gas chromatograph is not recording the numbers right now. So I guess 2 engines we're trying to run. 3 engines is probably out of the equation. We're trying to come up with a new plan with the new PPA and these rates and trying to optimize when we run during the week on peak hours, and then maybe let things float over the weekend where we just run 1 engine and let the landfill recover when it's off peak hours. So you shouldn't see too much flare operation unless we have issues with the engines or the compressor system, but every now and again, Clint needs a day off or a weekend off. So when that happens, we shut down the engines and we flare. So I was out of town a few weeks ago, and when we came back on a Sunday night, the flare was going. So Clint was out of town as well. So Folta started working on finalizing the landfill gas utilization report. They're working on putting together a design memo and the RFP documents for the equipment upgrades at the Sunnyview pub. So upgrading the flare, downsizing compressors, the air permitting associated with it, and trying to get equipment vendor RFPs out on the street. So we're going to be having a meeting next week to talk more about that process and keep that moving forward. This probably would have been a good discussion point when Kathy was doing her tonnage reports, but over the past weekend, Outagamie and the Bow recycling facility, we had a pretty major planned shutdown to upgrade some equipment. So last week, Thursday, we were holding material at our transfer station, and Outagamie shut down the system, brought in some contractors and vendors, and did a whole batch of capital equipment upgrades. Basically a brand new container baler was brought in. There were some big improvements to the glass cleanup system that were implemented. The OCC bunker walking floor was replaced. Disc screens were replaced on the OCC, I believe. And then the fiber baler was relined, and these were all planned activities and coordinated with the regional partners. I think they're having
Trying to catch up.
trying to catch up, so they were able to get it all accomplished between last Thursday at 11 and 5 o'clock on Monday morning. So they're still
There's
trying
a
to,
lot of material coming in right now, because everybody in the area was holding, not just us, but the other commercial haulers that have transfer stations were holding material, so they do plan to work through Saturday to catch up fully, and then things should be back to pretty close to normal by Monday, but now it's kind of like daily check-in, how many shipments can you receive from us? Is it better for us to ship in the afternoon or in the morning, and so that communication is ongoing right now.
$5.
yeah. The other thing related to the recycling facility is there was some back and forth discussion, in January about, there's some new EPA grant dollars available that would apply to, recycling plant improvements. One of the things our group has been talking about is adding, AI robotics to the sort lines to, address contamination issues and staffing shortages. And, the Tri-County group hired a consultant to kind of coordinate the grant application process. And the grant application was due on,
It's, I don't remember the exact date, but they had to turn it into their consultant.
yeah.
by-
So we were scrambling late last week. Kathy got some information on Thursday. About, providing support letters. So I talked to Pat, also, tried talking to the county executive, but, I'm not sure what their schedule was like, but they weren't able to help out. But Kathy wrote a letter on behalf of Pat, as chairman of the Solid Waste Management Board, supporting, the upgrades to the plants, that would support, and be included in this grant application, so. There's a letter, that we put together, so at least Allegheny or Winnebago has a part in the support. You know, Allegheny and Brown, executives and other, supervisors were submitting letters of support as well, so we kind of scrambled on Friday to get something together.
So what is the current technology? What is the current AI technology for recycling facilities? What, is there like a video of robots doing this, or what? I mean, what would it look like?
That's basically it.
That's
There's
basically it.
robot stations, and there's a robot with one or two arms, and it picks off what you tell it to pick off, and
Okay.
it learns product design as it's picking, and that's
Okay.
artificial intelligence. It uploads it to a database and then learns as it goes, and so that will replace a person on the line. And
So is it's almost a one-for-one thing? It's like a,
it's close to a 1-for-1, yeah.
Okay.
So where, depending on where we put it, you know, and that's one of the things that we did, was look at where does it make sense to put these robotic stations? And we are struggling to bring personnel in and to sort. So-
absolutely. I
Right,
mean, this
everybody
is
is,
this is the future.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
so, yeah, and the opportunity also came with getting a grant primary, or our first grant we received was from the recycling partnership. The nationwide nonprofit group that organizes money from people like Coca-Cola and big manufacturers. And so we did receive $150,000 grant from the recycling partnership. But with the cost of the AI robotics, it was brought to our attention that this EPA grant had been extended, and that Allegheny was considering hiring a consultant. They moved forward with that, and then last minute, they were scrambling to get more letters of support, and so that's when that last minute call came out there.
So what is the cost compared to a person? I mean, if it is truly a
Off the top of my
one.
head.
Well, I mean, there's gotta be some, you know, give and take on what that is, if it costs, it's
Yeah,
total of 50,000 for a full-time person, or 80 or whatever. These cost 350, I mean, what's the payback? And
Yeah,
yeah,
we can certainly get that in.
Yeah.
I think I'd be interested to just for our own
Yeah.
edification, what
sure,
that is, 'cause it's an interesting.
Coincidentally, on CNBC, they had a president of some AI company, robotics and whatever, and then they had an argument or discussion about, well, why would I need that Well, if you wanna upgrade your capacity to produce. If you go with the AI and the robotics. You don't have that multi-million dollar investment. Okay, you don't have to do that. You do this, there's a 15 to 20% increase in production.
Hmm.
And it's very reliable, obviously, you don't have to, it's there. So I mean, it's certainly opening my eyes to what those things can do. It's like, when I watched that thing crawl along, picking up garbage off the street. Whatever, and it's like amazing that, how they can do that.
Yeah, and right on the truck and just send it back.
Yeah, right,
I don't
so
know.
No
we
cigarette
could, you,
break.
hey,
Hey,
maybe at General,
yeah,
we could have a person, a robot.
Some creepy AI thing crawling.
Crawling around.
Get a robot.
what you're doing with straw.
Yeah, so, I guess we're crossing our fingers and we'll see what happens with the grant application. It was, it's a national grant. I think they were looking at, 25, 20 to 25 different awards, various dollar amounts. So there's gonna be a lot of competition for this sort of thing, but we'll give it a whirl.
Well, just remember all the, when you think of all the, what was the acronym that they put on? For all the money that Fed's handed out,
ARPA?
yeah, and our Winnebago County's fund is called what?
Well, the spirit fund.
They're trying to change the name to Spirit Fund.
Okay. So, in the spirit of that, there's a lots of money out there that can probably be spent in the right direction. But I won't have that.
Yeah.
opportunity to do anything.
And the last item here, I got a call a couple weeks ago from Executive Damo, and he wanted to talk about our department coming up with a plan for improving recycling within the county offices. So I brought in Kathy and Jessica. Kathy's kind of coordinating things, but Jessica's kind of taking the
Yeah.
lead on it and run with it.
And about,
Yeah, we put together a plan. I sent that off to the executive last week, and I guess we're waiting to hear some feedback before we start implementing some of those changes. Just making sure people know what to recycle, what not to recycle,
and working with facilities. and-
working with facilities on making things happen within the offices that they're responsible for.
Well, setting up stations,
Yeah.
appropriate recycling stations and signage that's not 20 years old. I don't know what signage is out there at this point, so. There's certainly the room for improvement and hopefully bring a little life into the recycling programs here.
Yeah.
within the county.
And the other thing is, we've also started working on the Wisconsin Herd Go Green event, which is scheduled for Friday, March 17th.
Same thing.
Go Green. So Kathy and Jessica started having some communications with the Wisconsin Herd folks. The Land and Water Conservation Department is also gonna be partnering in that, along with our nonprofit, the,
Winnebago Waterways, it's run by Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance.
So. Now it's gaining momentum.
it's gaining momentum, so. Hopefully we'll have a little better feel for where those two things are, and perhaps at the next board meeting on March 1st, we'll have a little bit more information to share with you. So, that is all I had in my report.
Any other questions or comments or anything? If not, next meeting is,
March 1st.
I will not be available.
That's right.
okay. That's why you came early, Dave.
Motion to
Motion
adjourn.
Second. Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, that is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, Jerry. Enjoy the sunshine.